Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
Do you ever feel like you're doing the journey alone? Have you ever felt like that you just need someone to talk to, someone who could bring some perspective into your world? Or maybe you're not the type of person who learns from watching video courses or reading books, and you just want to talk with someone specifically about your challenges and how to break through them. I want to introduce you to the High Performance Men's Coaching Program. It's an intensive coaching experience designed to unlock a man's full potential in his life, business, and relationships. Over this past year, I've brought together and trained some of the best coaches in the world to help men step up, stop playing small, and become the strongest versions of themselves. Learn more about High Performance Men's Coaching at kfmcoach.com. Again, that's kfmcoach.com. You are not alone, and we are here to cut through the crap, hold you accountable, and challenge you so that you can make your dreams become a reality. Go to kfmcoach.com to learn more and apply.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Noah Kagan, founder of the successful product marketing platform AppSumo. Think of it like daily deals for entrepreneurs. He was also Facebook's 30th employee as a product manager when it was just 1 year old, back in the days when it was just college students on the website. And also number 4 employee at Mint as the director of marketing. Noah, glad to have you here.
Dude, thank you for having me, brother.
All right. And Noah, we start off every show with some sort of favorite success quote or a saying that you've lived by that's helped you on your journey. Quite the journey you've had here. I'm interested in what you got.
Yeah. I'm thinking, do I have to do one or can I do a few?
We could do a few and break them down.
So my mom's favorite quote, and I have this Jewish mother. She's amazing. One of her things is basically like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I think that is just such a damn powerful quote, where a lot of people want things in life and they're just like sitting by the side or they're complaining about it. And they're like, oh, this guy did this or this thing did that. And then, you know, at the same time, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You have to go and do something about it. And I think that's kind of been like probably like the ultimate quote for me in my lifetime.
So are you a doer? Are you like big on action? Like you really have that, emphasize that warrior archetype?
To some extent. I don't know if anyone would think they're not a doer, but I think what's been some of my successes, I think about things afterwards, where I think a lot of people will psych themselves out or spend a lot of time thinking around something instead of just going for it. Because I think, at least for me, a lot of my success or things I'm happy with what I've accomplished is because I do things, I learn from it, and then I keep improving. Where I think some other people potentially are just like observing and thinking and strategizing too long.
Yeah. Especially today, I think more than ever, that is more prevalent because there's so much great content available and everyone fighting for attention. And to be honest, in my opinion, I think a lot of it is pretty good content that people are putting out these days, or at least some of the people I'm following. And you can get caught in just consumption. There's so many great events that are happening as well, where I can get caught just traveling. And my business or my life, my goals are really just stagnating.
I mean, I think part of it too, it's like one of the things, Andrew, that's impressive about you is that a lot of people, I get emails literally every day and they say, hey, Noah, how do I create a successful company? Hey, Noah, how do I get bald like you? How do I be Jewish like you?
Those are hard to do. Do you have a coaching program for that?
Yeah, exactly. What Jew 101. But no, to your point, and I think this is just, we all want a secret. We all want some podcast or some book, and myself included, some video to give us a secret. And the secret is this, and I figured it out, and I'm very fortunate. It's what I admire about you. You've done this podcast thing for over 4 years. And what most people do is they get excited and they want to start a YouTube business, or they want to start a consulting or a software, whatever it is, and they do it for 6 months and it doesn't make them a millionaire overnight and they give up. And if they can just persevere for at least a year or to that 4th year, they'll pretty much get whatever they want in life. And today, for example, I talked to this chess grandmaster. His name's Eric Hansen. he's like second in the world or something like that. He's got like a 2,800 rating. I said, man, a lot of people play chess. How did you get to this next level of it? You're on like a different level of it than most people. I think two things that he identified were able to help him persist. And one of them was he had fun with it. So he got results from just the work. And the second thing he said, which I thought was the most interesting, he said, every time I plateaued, it was right before a big breakthrough. And I thought that was interesting because I think we all plateau in some part of our life. And because the score's not changing or the revenue's not changing or our ranking's not changing, we give up.
Yeah.
And he said, still growing even though the ranking's not changing. And eventually that day happens where the breakthrough happens. And I don't know, it's a good reminder of getting through those plateaus on the journey to success.
Oh, man. The plateaus. It's just this place where you're like in the middle. It's like I can give up and try something new and maybe I'll have more success with that. There's that excitement that you're talking about when you start something new. Or you can continue down this path where it's just nothing's really happening. It feels like you're just uncertain. Like, Albert Einstein's quote, insanity's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And so I think in the plateau, you have to start experimenting and trying new things to break out of that plateau. But because you have all that experience, you're able to bring to the new things that you're trying. You're able to bring all that experience to the table. And I think that's how you break through the plateaus.
Have you read Mastery by George Leonard?
George Leonard and Robert Greene's Mastery, both fantastic books.
Yeah, I haven't read Robert Greene's. George Leonard, I got from a person I didn't even know. And I'm starting to read it. I'm like, what the hell is this book called Mastery? And one of the most interesting parts of the book was that everyone goes through the plateau. And so how do you overcome it? And so I really liked what his suggestions were, which is one, get a coach. So it sounds like that's something that you offer people.
Right.
So in any aspect, you have a business coach. Like I have a fantasy football coach. And so if anything you want to improve on, go get a coach. And two, embrace the plateau. And I thought those were kind of some of the things. He had a few other strategies that you can read in the book, but I thought those were two that I really kind of identified with, which was like get someone to say, hey, this is part of the plateau. And two, when you're in the plateau, sometimes we all want to get to the destination. Like for me, I want to keep going to the next thing and the next thing and the next high. But sometimes I'm like, all right, just go embrace the things that are shitty or the things that are going on right now and make that the fun part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In George Leonard's book, what I got from it was just like changing your relationship with practice. Don't view practice as this painful thing that you have to do. Like practice for the sake of practice itself, and not expect some sort of result at the end of the practice, but practice just for practicing. And when you change that view, it feels much easier to get up and do it over and over again. I can't tell you, it was probably after episode 100 where I was just like, all right, well, I haven't really made much money from this podcast, and there is a following. It is growing. Things are happening, but it just felt like every person, it was like the same conversation over and over again. And so I had to just stop expecting that like this interview is going to somehow transform my business, but actually just start enjoying the conversation that you're having with this other person on the side of the podcast. And when I started doing that, and I really started having more fun. And when you have fun, I think it's just so much easier to go through anything.
What really helped you get through from year 1 to year 4.5?
I stopped putting pressure on myself to be perfect, because I was trying to be perfect for the first 100. Like I used to spend like hours editing the episode after myself. I was so embarrassed I didn't even want to hire an editor because I didn't want him to laugh at how horrible I was. So I wanted to edit it before I would hand it to an editor, so he wouldn't think I was that bad. So when I let go of that, when I just said, all right, this is me, this is who I am, and I stopped looking at the 1-star reviews, and I just said, look, I'm going to try and have as much fun as possible on the show. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be myself, and let's just see what happens on this interview. And I stopped trying to force myself to be perfect. And when I let go of that, it freed me.
It's really interesting, man, because I think part of one thing I'm noticing about businesses, including our own, with we have AppSumo and we have sumo.com, and the one thing I'm noticing with our business and businesses in general, and it relates to even just like personal improvement in all aspects, is and even diet. Sounds like you're into health and fitness too, which is how do you do things that are sustainable? And I think that's something that's kind of neglected. And so for you, it sounds like with your show, which is impressive, man, you're like, all right, I want to keep doing this for years to come. How do I make it something that's rewarding and I grow over a very, very long period of time? And, I think that's what we have to kind of keep reevaluating.
Yeah, yeah. Also, for me on that was thinking beyond the podcast. So the podcast, I was putting all my eggs in this basket as like, this is my only source of like of business growth. But what is beyond the podcast, and really reaching out to the guest post podcast and building real relationships with these people rather than just viewing them as like, this is an episode, but using the podcast as a platform for me to connect with really incredible people doing incredible things in the world. And it's allowed me to like go to amazing events, you meet Tony Robbins, like get invited to exclusive parties, or just have opportunities that I otherwise would not have had. And so taking the pressure off the podcast as like the main source for growth and instead viewing it as a relationship building tool, that made it a lot easier.
I feel the same way, dude. When I started my show, I put so much pressure. That is funny how I put so much pressure, because I was like, I used to like this when I just did it for fun and I was doing it naturally. And it's not that you don't want to take it seriously and improve, but it's like, how do you figure out that balance for yourself?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's got to be fun. It's got to be enjoyable. All the pressure, I think the audience can feel it. Also, too, just learning how to outsource and building a team around the podcast. So this episode here, or even just this week, I do 2 interviews a week, and I only work on this podcast 2 hours a week. So I have a team who will then take this over and then do everything after that, publish it, write the blog posts, all that, get it all, on YouTube and stuff. I used to do all of that, and so it used to take me 50 hours a week. And to bring it down and just focus on what I want to do and eliminate anything else that is just not for me, so that I can focus on higher value activity. That's what I just told you. This is our biggest year ever, but being free has allowed me to focus on the strategy and the growth of my personal and professional life.
I guess one of the things I started wondering is like, what would you have told your target self?
My target self? Oh, because I used to work at Target.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you're at Target. Life is not too bad. And, I guess you wanted something more, so you made that change. But I guess sometimes I wonder, like, how would you have given yourself that confidence or awareness of how the future could be?
Oh, that's a great question. I think what I needed to hear, I needed stronger belief in myself. I was scared shitless to quit. And I knew I was going to quit after probably 2 months when I had the job. And then it took me another 8 months before I actually quit. And the whole time in that 8 months, I knew I was going to quit, but I just was scared to actually walk into my boss's office and have that conversation. I actually attempted to quit once. Like I sat down, I was like, I'm going to do it. And then she was like, what do you want to talk about? And then I was like, let's talk about performance of this employee.
No way.
Like I didn't do it.
Wow. Hold on. You really?
Yeah, it was scary because I wasn't like making a great salary, but it was like 56K.
How much were you making?
56K plus bonus, so like 60 out the door in a year. I had no debt really, so it was just cash coming in. And I was living at home at the time because I was that cheap, because I was really planning for this day when I was going to quit. So I was trying to stack up as much cash as possible, but I just didn't know when. I didn't know how to make money online. I didn't know how to do anything. All I knew was that I hated this job. That was the one thing I was clear on.
What did you hate about the Target job so much?
Well, I don't want to downplay Target as a company, because I think that for what it is as a retail company, I think it's great. I think for certain people, they can thrive. And I do know a lot of people who were there who are now up higher, and they apparently are really happy. So I don't want to downplay the company. I just felt like I could do something better. Maybe not better. Felt like I could do something that was more in alignment with my values. And I wanted to... I mean, dude, I was reading all these books. I was reading 4 Hour Work Week. Like I was reading Gary Vaynerchuk's Crush It when it first came out. And so there was all this hoopla around like going out and doing something big. And I just wanted to be a part of that.
Did you quit and then go do all this? I'm sure you've shared this before. It's a good reminder and I'm learning from me. But did you quit and go do it? Or did you already get that stuff going?
I bought the domain Knowledge for Men, which originally came from, I used to train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and my favorite fighter was BJ Penn. And he had a book called The Book of Knowledge. I was trying to do something with the word knowledge because I was just fascinated with how you can learn something that you didn't know, and then you can apply it, and then your life can change. And I was just starting to read like Tony Robbins and stuff. And so I bought the domain Knowledge for Men. It was recommended and it wasn't taken. And so I bought that, and I was just dabbling with writing online about just venting about my life. And I was going through a really tough breakup at the time. So this whole story really transcended out of a breakup and me wanting to like find my path and purpose after like a post-college, what would you call it? Crisis.
Yeah. I wonder how many things in life are like impacted by a breakup. Like how many wars have happened and all this other shit where it's like Kim Jong-il was like, yo, you took my girl, man, I'm gonna bomb your ass.
What was that one? Troy is after a woman, that whole war. Have you seen Troy? Brad Pitt.
No, was it?
I mean, it's a real true story, but Troy is this huge Greek battle fighting over one woman.
Dude, I mean, women really run everything. If you want real knowledge, they run it all. So just do what they say. Give them the power.
I don't know.
That's my belief.
Yeah. So we've been talking a bit about, my journey here. I'm interested in how you handle the situation with Facebook. That's something that you probably get asked all the time. So you probably have this, ready to go. But for those that don't know, I introduced Noah as Facebook number 30. And there was an option for stocks. And I believe from what I found, it was 20,000 shares of Facebook, which when it IPO'd, that would have been worth over $170 million. But at some point during that, you were let go from Facebook. So you were not awarded those shares. Yeah. I mean, if you can talk about that and how I just want to know what's going on through your mind. We all experience like missed opportunity in our lives. And I think this is a clear big one. And I'm curious, like what you learned and how you grew and rose out of that situation.
Yeah. One thing I just want to say is that we all go through hard times. And no matter how rich or poor you are, like it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's the flow of life. And I think my whole journey or my story and the reason I'm public about it is that it's a learning process for me. Right. No matter what, when bad things are inevitable, it's more about like, how are you taking them and then growing from that? How are you taking time? Like this chess guy, I was talking to him earlier. He's like, after every game, I go and review whether I win or lose, what I could have done better. And I think that's the whole point. Go review what went well, what didn't go well, and how you can make it better. And that's, why I share this story. For me, I think the equivalent for anyone out there about what the day was like, I remember every single moment about that day. Walking into the coffee shop, being with like this guy now who's a big VC and my manager at the time, and they're sitting me down. They're like, "We're letting you go today," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It's the equivalent of probably finding out that you have brain cancer and you're dying in a year.
Wow, that
was the equivalent of what I felt like in that day, because this was my everything. This was like the most important thing in the world to me, and this is all I did. This was above myself, and have it taken away, it really kind of questions your identity. And I think as men and some women, I don't know what it's like to be a woman, not yet. But as a man, a lot of our identity is associated with our work.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm doing work. I'm a good person.
Yeah, ego.
Yeah. And maybe that's some society effect, but that's how I associate it with. Mm-hmm. And to have that taken away from you, you're like, well, who am I? In retrospect, I don't know how I got through it, man. I remember being very sad for a very long time, because of the missed opportunity. And also, publicly, I was embarrassed. All my friends were working at Facebook, or I thought my friends. I'm actually not friends with any of them today, good or bad. And, it's a really low period. The flip side now that I run a company is that it's so crazy, because I remember once they let me go, I thought, man, everyone's going to miss me. Everyone's just going to quit. I can't believe this. Life goes on.
Yeah.
And this is actually a quote I was going to share with you earlier, is that basically, you're not important, and no one cares about you. It's the same thing. Think about it for business or in life. It's like everyone is busy. No one cares about you. It was kind of a realization now that I run a company too. It's not that I don't care about the people who work here at all, but when somebody quits or we let them go, at the end of the day, it's like life goes on for us and for them. And it's really up to each person to make it better. For me, I mean, I went and smoked cigarettes. I did random ass jobs. I took whatever work I can get. I mean, I think people have to, my brother said it well. It's like you have to go through the hard times. And I think we want to avoid it with drinking or with drugs or with going on a bunch of dates when you're single. And I think I'm not great at it, man, but I'll tell you, I think the more that you can either go to therapy, the more that you can journal, the more that you can actually face it, as much as it's going to suck, that's what led to better times, where eventually I found mint.com because I was doing things I enjoyed eventually. I was putting on conferences and events, and one of the guys was like, hey, check out this mint thing. It's kind of like podcasting. I'm sure you noticed this with your show, and I've noticed it with mine. If you just start doing things that you're interested in or excited about, it generally will lead to better things, even if it's not right away. It's just like that plateau stuff. Like even though your ranking is not changing or your money's not changing or your score isn't changing, if you're working on your craft, it's probably going to lead you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I would say for me, it did. It led me to Mint and better times. It was definitely one of the hardest things like I've ever had to go through. I'd say the thing for me, one of the biggest things was therapy. That was pretty dramatic as a helper for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Life goes on is the message I'm hearing from you. Life goes on. Have you seen Jerry Maguire, that movie in the 90s with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, dude, I'm not that old, bro.
I know, but I know you're not that old. There's this scene where he's like, all right, like he quits and he's like, everyone, because he's like kind of a big guy at this firm and he thinks like people are going to quit because he's leaving. He's like, let's go. And then the whole office just stops and just looks at him. And then it's just silent for 10 seconds. And then all of a sudden everybody just gets back to working. And then he's just left sitting there going, oh, what? Oh. And then he kind of like slowly pedals out of the office and just goes down the elevator all confused and then that just made me think of what you said where you're like, you're not that important, like people are busy, like life goes on basically for everyone else.
I think we kind of forget sometimes that on the flip side of this, man, I was complaining to a friend of mine about how something he was doing wrong, and I didn't even stop to think what's life like for him and how he's going through things too. And I'm not a great empathizer, but I think there's something on the flip side that as much as no one cares about us, everybody's going through something. And so maybe sometimes ask other people or give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And that's something on my own side I can always work on. Yeah.
Yeah. You also mentioned something, just start doing things you enjoy, and typically good things happen when you do that. We were talking about, this podcast, kind of the journey of it. I didn't even know I hit 1 million downloads. I had surpassed it like many, many months before I finally checked, and I was like, oh crap, I hit 1 million downloads, because it was after a point when I just started focusing on being authentic, being myself, not trying to be perfect, and really trying to connect with the guests at an authentic level and try to get them to share things that they just normally wouldn't share instead of like a canned presentation on a podcast. And then I just remember checking, and then I was like, oh, damn. Like I didn't even know that there was growth because I just wasn't paying attention to monthly numbers or anything like that. We've since done many more millions, and I honestly don't even know exactly where we're at. I try not to check on it. And the same has happened in my business. I know you're probably supposed to know your numbers, like that's probably a good thing, I'll say. So I'm not promoting not knowing exactly how much you've made for the year. But we recently passed 7 figures within a 12-month period, and I didn't even know it. It wasn't something that I really track. Like I'm just focused on the team, on creating really cool content, and just trying to come up with just really cool strategies to help grow and have fun with this.
Well, I think there's something there where you can find activities, and I'll tell you, the most money I've made in life, I would say health-wise, the best I've ever been is generally when I'm just doing the things I want to be doing. I'm just playing the game that I'm really enjoying. And it's just like with business, every time I've tried to focus on making more money, like, how do I get more money? What's my opportunity? Let's go do this. It generally leads to the least amount of money and the least amount of satisfaction. But on the flip side, so for example, I went and tried to do Facebook games. And it actually did really well, and I made some money, but eventually it started going down. And I was like, you know what? I hate this stuff. And I was so, we're dealing with literally midwives in the Midwest, like playing farm shit. And it sucked, dude. I hated all these people. I hate them. I have no problem saying it. But on the flip side, for what was this, 2000, I don't remember, 2000 something, I put on a conference for internet social networking, for Facebook and MySpace before it was really popular, around 2005 or maybe 6.
Okay.
I just put it together because I wanted to meet like the guys from plentyoffish.com and hotornot.com and Max Levchin from PayPal. And I just put it on, man. I wasn't trying to make a business. I wasn't trying to make money. It ended up making me, over the 2 years I ran conferences, about $250,000. And it wasn't to make money. It was just to do something I really enjoyed. And subsequently it worked out. And that's something that's I could recommend for others.
I think so too. And I think the same applies with, like, as you're saying, you do things you enjoy. The part of me, I love video games. Do you like video games now?
No, I don't.
Did you grow up playing video games?
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay.
Nintendo.
I'm sure there's a part of you that would like to play a really cool video game. But anyways, I kind of cut that from my life because I viewed it as something that was taken away from my life. because I would play it for too long. And so recently I love strategy games like the Warcraft, the Starcraft, like that was back in the day. And so I was like, this is just not too long. It was just a couple months ago. I was like, what is the latest, like the coolest strategy game out? And so I got a strategy game and I started playing it, and I would do it like a break, like in the middle of the day at 1 or 2. And I think I previously would be like, what are you doing? Like, you're wasting your life. Like, oh my gosh, you could be crushing it. Time is valuable. But these strategy games are, to me, like, it opens up my mind. Like, I view it as a way for me to practice strategy. And I realized that, like, that is a core trait that I have. Like, it really helped me understand my awareness of, like, what am I actually good at? In my own business, it's strategy. Like, I'm a strategist. I can create really cool sales funnels or marketing funnels, or I could put together events and I could plan it out in ways that I think would stress out a lot of people, or it would take a whole team of people to do what I could do in an afternoon. When I play these strategy games, I'm really just exercising, like going to the gym, like I'm just exercising that muscle. And I find that it translates really well into my business life. I just started going back into, like, what am I actually good at? Another thing I'm trying to really take up is guitar. I love it, but I viewed it as like it was a waste of time. But when I'm playing, it feels like I am opening up like areas of my brain that I've closed down. And then after I play and I start playing with like my funnels or like anything, I just feel like I have this extra power. I don't know if you can relate to this, but this is doing things you enjoy. I think it opens up your life.
It sounds so ironic because if you think about what you're saying, you're like, hey, everyone, just go do things you enjoy. And we're like, oh, really? I think that's something that the two parts that you kind of, I think were good reminders for myself is, number one, just go back to the shit you did in like high school or junior high and just go do that. Like, go back into bike. Like, I got back into biking. And I'm now mountain biking and road biking all the time.
Where are we at when you do that? Where do you do that at?
I live in Austin, Texas, but wherever I travel now, or like, you know, I did Boy Scouts, so I like, you know, go camping as much as I can and just go revisit stuff before drinking. Everything before like
and girls. Before drinking and girls, what were you doing before? And that's probably your core identity.
Yeah, man, I think there's definitely something there to that. And I think, you know, give yourself permission. That sounds so strange, but you know, you don't have to ask for permission. Just the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like, go and find things that, you know, professionally. Like, man, I used to always love when I did this. It's like, go.
Yeah, absolutely. AppSumo has been crushing it. You guys have grown. Yeah, I've seen what your office looks like. Big team.
Really? How'd you see our office?
Don't you have a video, or is that staged?
No. Yeah, it's all.
Is that all fake? You're really just in your living room. You have 2 outsourced employees.
Just one suggestion. I think it's interesting, and this is just my own personal preference or personal thought, is that it's interesting how we measure another. Right? It's interesting how we look at someone else, and you see me, and you say, "Wow, he's got a nice studio," or "He's got a car." And we kind of put some type of status around it or success around it. And it's more, what I've realized this year, it's more of a reflection about what I want for myself. And it's just interesting for us to all get grasp about what that really is for ourselves. You know, for example, like at Facebook, I think I was really just jealous over the years of how rich everyone got. Like one guy, literally, I saw him posting a few months ago about his McLaren. That's a $500,000 car.
Right.
And one guy bought a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, you know, I'd have a 700 square foot condo and I drive a scooter and a Miata. You know, on one hand, you could be like, oh, well, you don't have all this and you don't have that, but this is exactly what I want. And I think that, you know, everyone just has to decide, what the hell do you want? How much money do you want? Where do you want to live? What kind of girl or guy do you want? And then just go after that. Because right now, a big office is cool, but that also means we're spending $40,000 a month in an office. You know, then you have to pay all this other stuff. And it's great, but it doesn't also mean that we're a very successful business, because it really just depends on how you measure it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this question I think it's such a powerful question. There's what does society say you should do, or what does society view as success? And then there is the question that I think people aren't asking enough, which is, what do you view as success?
Yeah. And, you know, for me, I'm happy with, you know, I never think of myself as successful, but I don't think of myself as not successful. I just ask myself and I reflect on, am I doing the things I want to be doing? And if I'm not, what do I need to do to get to that place? And that's really what I look at. And so am I working on businesses I like with people I like, making as much money as I like? And if I get to do that, I'm like, life is fucking awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's where there's pros and cons with social media, because it really, in many ways, I think it's just natural reaction to compare. Even if you say like, oh, I don't like, I think it's just natural gut reaction to instantly view some photos and be like, oh, he's there. This is where I'm at. There's this separation and he's above or below, whatever.
Yeah. And, I see someone with a fancy ass car. I'm like, oh, they must be doing well. But I'm like, I drive around a 2004 Miata. Right? It's like, I'm also pretty damn happy with it, whether, how much money I have, regardless of that.
There's something cool when you have a car that's older, is like if it gets scratched, or if you're at a grocery store or like grocery parking lot and someone opens their door and dings it, like you just don't care. When you have a car like that McLaren, if that happens, like it's a problem. There's, lawyers might get involved.
Well, it's funny you say that, because he was posting because someone tried to steal his rims. So it was a photo of people trying to steal his rims.
You get you get that kind of attention.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not bad. I have friends that love cars, and that's their thing. And so coming back to the original point, yeah, business is going well for us based on my own standards. And everyone needs to determine it themselves. And if it's so that they could buy a car or whatever it is, I just think the balance is that for years I've been jealous of other people. I think, we all have some type of jealousy. I think jealousy is just more of a compass of maybe things that you actually want for yourself, and then figuring out how you actually get that.
Good. Were you fueled by jealousy after the loss of, or whether you view it as a loss or not, but after just what happened with Facebook, were you fueled by jealousy to build something? Like, was Sumo Me or AppSumo a product of some of that anger and fuel from that experience at Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Have you ever been dumped or broken up with a girl?
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole experience in the beginning of my story. Yeah.
Yeah, so think of it this way, man. Like, whenever you break up with a girl, there's two things that should happen. One, it's a step function, so you should be learning for the next step. And secondly, your next girl should be better than your first girl. And, so I always was like, why is this? I wanted to find something better than Facebook. And, I think I've done that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I do. I think it drove me. Yeah, it drove me to say, all right, well, I know what I liked and what I didn't like. How do I now find something that's like one more step up better than that?
Yeah.
And like, dude, nowadays you couldn't pay me to go work there. Like, that sounds like hell.
Yeah. At what point did it transition from kind of the fuel? So if you're fueled by that sort of anger, at what point did you change the fuel to like, oh man, like this is what I want. Like this is my thing now. I'm fueled by X. Like, what is that?
I mean, I was honestly, dude, I had a lot of hate in my heart for a long time about it, because you want to show that you got something better. You're like, I finally got a girl after one of my exes, and I was like, yeah, finally, I got someone better than you, fool.
Right.
And so it drove me for a long time. Eventually, time kind of heals all wounds, and time kind of like helps you forget or focus on things that matter. And I was like, I'm doing the things that I want to be doing. So it took a long time. I'd say probably about 10 years, dude.
Okay.
Maybe not 10, but maybe like a good 7 to 10 years until you get to that next level where you find the thing you're actually like, man, this is actually better than that. And here's what I've realized about us humans is that we all self-preserve. So as long as you can say, all right, I'm going to go make it better, you'll be better. But it's easy, I think, when people just start complaining and just like, oh, well, I don't have this. It's like, no, what are you doing to learn to make sure the future gets better? Mm-hmm. And I think if people can take that ownership,
right,
then the future of it is definitely going to get better.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's sometimes the hardest thing to do is the responsibility. It's so easy to blame, but the harder, the more grounded thing to do is to own it. I'm wondering, would you have changed that 7 years of fuel? You said 6, 7 years. If you could go back, would you want to change that to 2 or 3 or?
No, I mean, I was as angry as I needed to be for some period of time.
I appreciate the honesty. I think, just saying that, I think that's honest. And
yeah,
I think it's okay.
Pissed. I hope it's okay. But yeah, I was angry for a long time. I wanted to create a company. And I think, to some extent now, I don't know if you do this, Andrew, but I definitely do this where we see other people and we're like, we always want to take them down a bit. Like you see someone else's company and you're like, well, he's divorced. Yeah. Or you see someone else, you're like, oh, yeah, well, he's got a small dick. And you're like, no, I'm just saying, like, we always do this to other people. Right. And so I think for a long time, that's led me to be more of, all right, well, I'm self-made. I didn't go let Mark build a company that I got to ride on the coattails and maybe help a little bit. I self-made it.
Right.
And yeah, maybe that's my justification for it, being happy with it. One thing I just want to encourage, and I've been on this kick for quite a while now. Jews, my people, we're known for complaining. Whether that's good or bad is different, because sometimes I think complaining can help. But I've been on this kick of no complaining. So don't complain at all. And it's actually blown my mind about how much of a transformation I've been having in the time that I've been doing this. Not that it's just not about complaining, because it's good to be around people who are positive and happy and all that stuff. But the flip side of it is that when you stop complaining, you actually start looking for solutions.
Yeah.
And that part of it for me, man, has been like game changing. Because now all I'm thinking about is like, all right, how do I make things better? And so I don't know, I encourage you and your listener, not you necessarily, but you or at least your listeners and myself, like if you just stop complaining, like how much better everything gets.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is it like? Just pity party. I was telling you that my office earlier, one of my employees left the sink on because they wanted to clean. They wanted to make like a little pool of water to clean something. So they did that, and then they left the sink on, and then overnight for like 14 hours. So then when we came back, we opened the door, and all this water comes out, and so our office was flooded. And so I was devastated, just because, our office is ruined. It's not our build. I don't own it, so it's a huge liability. Water damage to a structure. Anyone who knows about construction, water is like the worst thing you can do to like the framing and just the whole foundation of the building. And it's a big deal. It's not like a $2,000 problem. It's a big problem. And immediately I just felt this feeling of, I was devastated. I was scared. I was like sheltering in, and all these negative thoughts started coming into my mind. Like, oh, I'm just going to fire everyone. I'm just going to close it down. Whatever. This is a sign. But then when I just cut that and I say, okay, what do I need to do to fix this problem? Start making phone calls to insurance people, start calling real estate people, start trying to get answers. Now, I mean, I told you, and it was a joke, and this was just like 10 days. This is like 8 or 9 days ago. But if you were to talk to me 8 or 9 days ago, I was like, it looked like I had just gone through a breakup. Like I was in my bed, just like kind of just going through such a hard time. But solution-oriented mindset, that's just the only way out.
It's easy, dude. I mean, I've gone through phases, especially after Facebook. It's easy just to dwell. And sometimes you have to dwell for a little bit. And maybe you need a little drink, but maybe just face it and then start looking for the solutions. And like, it's pretty amazing when you start thinking in a, not like, dude, I'm not like this gratitude is your attitude bullshit. Like, oh yeah, like, let me just be the spirit of light, and lift people. But it's like, nah, man, like it sucks. I know it sucks, but what can I really do about it? And instead of being a victim, you start actually, taking ownership of the outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever lose yourself in this journey with AppSumo, where you found yourself, because some of the questions that you were sharing earlier were like, am I doing what I want with who I want, where I want, where you were doing the complete opposite, where you were just like, just grinding, working, really starting to lose yourself?
Dude, 100%. It's funny. I think we all, you sound like you're a Tony Robbins fan as well. Like we all have stories that we tell, and whether they're true or not is kind of like we've made them true.
Right.
But my story was that, sometimes what you start, it takes you down different paths, which is good, but you kind of have to have the same foundation or fundamentals. And so with AppSumo, which is a Groupon for geeks, like daily deals for business owners, online businesses.
For geeks,
or geeks or small business, daily deals, cool tools for people.
That's awesome, yeah.
And what happened is that like, I just started looking at the money. I literally was just like, all right, how much are we making? How much are we making? And what happened though, was that I didn't actually care about as much what we were doing as a business. It kind of just disconnected me. And I think the combination of that with a breakup as well, I just felt really bad about myself for about a year. I actually ended up leaving the company and going to India for a month. And I don't know. I just was like, oh, life's not good. I guess you go to India when life's not good.
Yeah, it's like a Steve Jobs.
Yeah, literally the Steve Jobs kind of journey. I think it's the white.
I think the Beatles did that too. Yeah,
the Beatles, the lost white guy trip. The fortunate thing, I think the good part about it was, one, if I was working with people that were better than me, and so they actually were able to grow the company when I was gone.
Yeah, that's great.
And two, I came back and I actually we fired a lot of the people, and we basically went back to the basics. We said, hey, let's just go back to like what the company is good at, which was like promoting less products, but just great ones, and we'll make less money. But it's fine because it's like we're doing what we want and we don't have as many people, so the costs are lower. And, now 2.5, 3 years later, the company's 3 times larger.
That's great.
So I definitely think there's something there when people are struggling or uncertain what to do. How can you just go back to fundamentals? And we went back to the fundamentals of what was working, and now 3, 4x bigger in less than 3 years.
Yeah. What happened in India? Were you on a hill with a guru? Did you do drugs? Sounds very profound out there.
Yeah, it was a trip, man. India is a place you can't really explain in words. If anyone's ever been there, they know. Huge country. A lot of Americans have no idea about it. Yeah. Solid people. Really weird, man. I was in the mountains, and there was a bunch of weed with these sages that just walk around smoking weed all day. To Goa, where I was doing, yoga next to the beach.
Nice.
I think it's a place that everyone should at least go once, and I don't know if they'll want to go back, but if they like it, they should. It's just such a strange place. I've never experienced anything like it. Like the Taj Mahal was this.
Oh wow, yeah.
Scene.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I went. Would I go back? Probably not.
Yeah. And that flight, that's where you get me. But I'll definitely, we'll check it out. Let's dive into the knowledge round. Just going to ask you a few rapid fire questions here before we close out. Are you ready, Noah?
Let me do my yoga stretches.
Do it. You take a hit of whatever you need to do.
I'm trying to think of some yeah, exactly. Some natural supplement. No, I'm money, dude. Let's rock it.
So you might be wondering, why would I ever invest in a coach? I've never done anything like that before. Well, it's going to shorten your learning curve and save you the time that it would take to achieve your goal. You can avoid making mistakes that you would otherwise make. You'll get more results because everything will be tailored to your specific needs and challenges. The coach will hold you accountable so you can't procrastinate, so you can't be lazy, so you can't say, I didn't have the time. You'll be challenged and pushed harder than you've ever been pushed. You'll have conversations so powerful that you'll feel more energized, alive, and confident and certain about the goals that you have in front of you and where you want to go. Most importantly, where you want to be. You'll go farther than you've ever gone before when you have a coach. If you want to learn more about our high performance men's coaching program, go to kfmcoach.com. Again, that's kfmcoach.com to learn more about our high performance men's coaching program. You have got to understand that every successful person in the world invests in coaching to go from good to great. And if you're already a high achiever, then how much more could you achieve if you had a high performance men's coach at your side to push you even further? Go to kfmcoach.com to learn more and apply for our high performance men's coaching program. Again, that's kfmcoach.com. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
What advice would you give to someone who's feeling really lost or unsure of what they should be doing?
So if I would give them a few pieces of advice. One, everything's going to be fine. It always is, dude. Every time I'm like, it's going to be fine, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, go to your friend that's the rock. So find a coworker, find a friend. I go to my buddy Adam or my brother. I'm like, who's my rock? Right? That always, you just go to your rocks and be like, hey, what do I should do? I need help. Number three, journal it out. So just start writing. Write in a place where there's no one that can look at it, and just write whatever the hell you need, and that'll get it. And then the last thing you need to do is just go get some movement. You need to get the hell out of your house and stop dwelling, because that basically creates some shitty cycle. It's easy to dwell, and then that self-perpetuates. So just get movement. Go on a bike, go for a jog, go for a walk, go on a treadmill, whatever it is, but just move your body. Because what I've noticed is that it's hard to feel bad when your blood is moving.
Right.
But when you're sitting home drinking or sitting at a bar, just being stationary.
Yeah.
It just kind of it lets it boil.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're cooking your body, cooking your mind.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and it's just marinating in it instead of just going out, getting the hell off. And I don't know. I think it has worked a lot better for me.
Yeah, absolutely. After a really cool bike ride, you're never upset about that. I just wish I didn't do that. You're always it's always a good time on the bike. I bike around the bay here in San Diego. It's priceless. I don't know why all of San Diego is not doing it. I feel like sometimes I am the only person in the San Diego Bay.
Dude, I think that's money, man.
Yeah. What's your relationship with money? Speaking of money.
Oh man, you're asking a Jew that. That's a fucking lifetime of challenges. I grew up with a mother who, just to give you a story about her, she tried to return spoons and knives and forks, a utensil set to Macy's. And they said, we can't take that. And she's like, well, why can't you take it back? They're like, well, it's from the 70s. It was a wedding gift from 1979. She tried to return this last year, 2016.
Did she have the box?
Yes, she still had the box. I'm like, Mom, you're trying to return 30-year-old silverware. She's like, you never know, they might take it back. I was like, good God. And then, I had a father who was very generous and, spend it on drugs and drinking and, very gifting to us kids and all that stuff. So, it was kind of a gamut. I think at now with money, I like making more of it. Once I make it, I want it to just stay put. I just want to see it where it is all the time. I don't want it to be taking risks. I want it to be in like index funds or a little bit of real estate or a little bit of stocks. I do, if you go to okdork.com, you can see exactly where I put my money. I do an asset allocation.
Cool.
I just not risky on it. And I don't we only have so much time to do active money or passive money. So I spend most of my time on the active money stuff, and the passive money, I just want it to be chill. And then in general, when I spend money, here's how much money I want to have. I want to have enough where I don't have to think about it. So when I go out to a meal, if it's expensive or cheap, I just get exactly what I want. And I think money, our relationship changes over time as you get older and younger and all this other stuff. But that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, I like that. I like that view. And I'm wondering, did your mom get the return?
No, they said no. Thank God, she shouldn't get the return.
All right. Yeah, very funny. What do you think is holding most men back from becoming stronger, grounded men today?
What is holding most men back? I don't know, man. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
I think generally what I've noticed when I'm holding myself back is because I'm not being true to myself. And that sounds like such horseshit to me, because it's like, how do you not be true to yourself? And it's like, it's yourself, dumbass. But the reality is like, who do you really want to be with in a physical relationship? What do you want professionally, and what do you want for yourself? And I think the more that you start just being truthful and like, all right, I don't want to do this meeting, I don't really like these activities, or I really like this stuff, and the more you just kind of keep being honest with yourself and doing the things you really want, I think that really starts enabling you to do more of everything you want. It's kind of like a muscle. And so the more you do like your self muscle and build it up and practice it, the more life becomes what you want.
That's great. Where do you draw the line with, am I doing what I want versus am I just lazy and procrastinating? Like, I don't want to do it today, as a sign of like, oh, this is.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I just have I like stupid rules. That's my preference. Just give me stupid rules. So one of my stupid rules is if I don't want to do it, I do it. That's just a rule. So here's the thing, practice it on small things so that you can do them on bigger things. So here's an example, dishes. I don't like dishes in the sink overnight. I don't like dishes when I leave my house. That's a stupid rule. There's never ever a time that I'm just not going to do it. Laundry. If it's in there, I take it out, I put it away. And so just like anything I did, hey, I hate pull-ups. Guess what we're doing today? Pull-ups. And so I think the more that you just get in that mindset, then when you face these challenges, you're just like, it's autopilot. You're not having to like make excuses about it. The only caveat I would probably say is that if you're just avoiding something that you just don't really want to do, just fucking cancel it. Like if you're like, I really want to learn guitar, and you're just not doing it, go find a different instrument or a different activity and then put your time on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Is that how you ended up on this podcast? You're like, I don't want to be on this fucking podcast. So, and then you just got to do it.
Well, do you want to know my answer for that? The real answer?
Yeah, I want the real answer.
So every Sunday night, I look at my calendar and I basically I do this every Sunday. I say, what do I not want to do this week? And what am I looking forward to this week? And I go through every single meeting and I either just delete them, or I ask my assistant to cancel them, or I schedule it. Like, oh shit, I really want to go biking. So like this morning, I scheduled bike riding to tacos. And I did it yesterday too.
To tacos, and to eat tacos, or what did you say?
Yeah.
To get tacos. Yeah. Okay, awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah. So I biked with this business friend of mine, and we went and got tacos. It was great bike riding.
Yeah.
And then this show, so I only have so much time alive. We all do, but somehow we all neglect that. We give out our time for free. We're like, hey, here's free time to everyone.
Yeah.
Which is retarded. And so I basically look at my calendar and I'm like, what's my goal? What things help me with my goal? What do I want to do? What do I not? And so I want to grow sumo.com. That's our number one, that's my number one priority. As my hobby and my 20% time, it's my podcast, the Noah Kagan Presents show. And so I was like, oh, Knowledge for Men. It's actually got some attention to it. So it made it worth my time to continue this. But there's other shows this week that I just canceled. And it's like, hey, we can revisit it in 2018. I think the more people do that, we kind of talked about holding ourselves back, the more that you're honest about what you want and if stuff's really helping you get it or not, the better life comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's in a way lifestyle design, which is a part of that is removing the unnecessary and really adding in what you feel is necessary.
That's exactly it, man. That's it to a T. I love what you just said.
What have been 3 of your most influential books that have helped you on your journey?
7 Habits, Highly Effective People book is phenomenal. If you haven't read 7 Habits, Highly Effective People, it's just the Bible. It's the Bible of business. I think, I would say fundamentally everything Seth Godin related to marketing has been amazing. Yeah. I love Seth Godin stuff. 2 other books I'd probably throw in there is Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. It's got this shitty title, and what happens is going to happen, Andrew, is people are going to buy the book, they're going to listen to it, or they'll buy it and they'll put it on their shelf, and it won't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and then I finally read it, and I was like, why has no one told me about this book? Where has this book been? And so I highly recommend checking out Ultimate Sales Machine, Seth Godin, and then 7 Habits, Highly Effective People. Let me pull up my list. I can see if there's 1 or 2 other ones. What I'm reading now, which is really good, is the Ray Dalio Principles.
Oh, yeah. It's going around right now. That's big. There's some really good interviews online with him, too. Tony Robbins has one. Yeah, there's some really good ones. I love these guys who I didn't know too much about him, but I mean, the guy's a boss, man. Like, he's not someone out there who's making all this noise. He just came out with this book. He's widely successful, and it's just a fantastic read.
Dude, I think that's exactly it. It's funny. I've been talking with people about this recently, where I think people admire someone that talks a lot or is public. But there's more successful people that shut the fuck up, keep to themselves, aren't looking just for notoriety. Right. And I'm always wary when the person tells me how much money they're making right away. I'm like, I don't know why that's so. That the guys who are making real big money don't talk about it.
They don't want you to know.
Yeah, why would they?
Yeah. Now, one of the questions I ask in every episode, but in your case, I just think it's like a slap in the face. But one of my questions is, if you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self, what would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like, just go invest in Apple stock. Just take all the money you have and take everybody's money and go buy as much Apple stock as possible. Number 2, I would probably say just work on being patient. 3, go find someone that's already done the things you want to do and just do whatever it takes to be around them. Those are probably the 3 things I would say.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Quick story on that is, after I graduated high school, usually you get it's usually like a great payday for you. I mean, do you remember when you graduated high school? Usually it's a decent payday from your family. I ended up doing something really dumb and got in trouble. So I was like grounded for the summer after graduating high school. And so I had nothing to do, but I started reading this Investor Business Daily magazine because it was just always on the counter, but I never noticed it. My dad had it. And then I started reading it, and then it was saying that like Apple, this is in 2006, 2007, Apple is like just the best stock. Like you should, something's going to happen with this stock. They're coming out with this new thing that's going to change the cell phone industry. Like you should invest in this. And so I took all that birthday money and I invested it all into Apple. I had just turned 18 and I opened up an E-Trade account, and that stock, I just held on to it until I got into college for a couple years, because I spent some time after high school just doing nothing. And that stock blew up, and then it paid for my entire college.
Dude, I love it. Shit, dude, send me some money.
Well, it's all gone now. That was the money that paid for my college. And all I can say, the only thing I really learned there's 2 things I learned in college. One of them was it was all about your network. Like that, the most I learned was from people like in my network. Like that's what helped me the most after college, was just the people I knew. And number 2 is money now is better than later. Those are the 2 things I really learned. That was in my finance class.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah. So for yourself here, even if you have to summarize some of your main points, what would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
Very, very simple. Have fun. It's not more complicated than that. Life is short or long, depending on how you look at it or how you live it, but just enjoy yourself during the ride.
It's beautiful. Do you schedule out your vacations or your trips in advance?
I am a planner, dog. So I have to schedule non-planning. I think there's different types of people in the world. I just like knowing what to look forward to. I think there's times where I'm a little spontaneous, but yeah, I love planning. Why do you ask that?
Because I feel like I love going on trips and having fun, but it just won't happen unless I book it out, because I'm just going to be busy. Like I would love to go on a trip in the spring, but if I don't book it now, I'm just going to be busy. And so I was wondering if other people, like, they just book out their year, they book out their trips and stuff.
Here's the one thing I want you to think about, and this is something I've noticed. Have you ever met people that are very busy, but you're not really impressed with what they're doing?
Of course.
I'm like, everyone's busy, then why aren't more things happening? And it's because they're busy on the wrong things, or they're not and they're not effective with their use of time. So, everyone's trying to get life hacks. I'm like, how fast is your computer? Focus on the big wins, not on the small wins. And, for me with, planning and stuff as well, it's like, what are the major things you really want to do in this year or this lifetime? And how are you just making sure you're focusing on those and not the small ones?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like, actually put in the bucket list into your calendar.
I do a yearly bucket list. So I had a bucket list. I have it on my computer right now. I have it on you have it on my fridge if you ever came over. And it's just like, I see this shit all the time each year. I have, parts of my bucket list, and I'm like, I go put it in my damn calendar and I make sure it happens. And I think I've actually done every single thing I wanted to do this year.
What are like 3 things that you did this year that were on your bucket list that were super cool?
I wanted to work remotely in Israel for a month. I did that in June. I wanted to do stand-up comedy sober. I did that in January.
Is that the key word there?
It's sober, yeah. It's fucking easy to do anything when you're I'm a great dancer when I'm drunk, man.
Yeah, I'm good with girls when I'm drunk. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I wanted to go to Zion National Park with my buddy Adam. So we did that 2 months ago.
Awesome. Glad you made those happen. And man, this has been a fun, really good show. Had a lot of like just being authentic and real with you. This is great for all the listeners. As you know, go to AppSumo. You can check out the website, check out what he's doing there, the product marketing platform, kind of like daily deals for entrepreneurs. Also, Sumo Me is something that I use. It's on the Knowledge for Men website, and
dude, you're the man.
It's the easiest tool to collect emails, to have like, fun pop-ups that show up that just aren't distracting. You have complete control over it. You can say which blog posts you don't want it to show up on, or specific ones you do want it to show up on. So we've built a huge subscriber base using Sumo Me, and I have used so many other ones before, and you have to like integrate so many different things, and then that causes problems on your website when you have to do all that. But Sumo Me has it all in one place, and it's literally, it's like just one clicks and then you're up, you're going. So if you have a website and you want to, generate more leads and those kind of things, or just direct people to certain pages on your website, yeah, Sumo Me is awesome. AppSumo, daily deals. And Noah, you have a podcast, so I think you could just go on iTunes and type in Noah Kagan, and it'll show up. Also, he has a book. I don't even know if you want to promote this, but
don't even mention the book, dude. Don't even mention it.
Okay, well, just Noah's got a ton of great content all over the internet, so check it out. Man, this has been a really fun episode. I'm glad that you came on, and this has been very impactful for myself. And just I like how you speak and how you're clear and you don't ramble. Like, you just get to the point and you make it simple for all of us to understand.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, brother.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of knowledgeformen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.